Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last 2 weeks, week 5, inviting stamina, and week 6, inviting commitment from Living the Artist Way, an intuitive path to greater creativity. So we've been going through this book club by Julia Cameron. She's the one who wrote The Artist's Way. And today I'm wrapping up the last 2 chapters together because they're not very long. And I'm going to go through each of these and include all of the tasks. If you've been following along, you know that you can go to the playlist and watch each one of them. And you can also follow along here with me without the book, because I do talk a lot about, do some reading from the book. So you don't technically have to have it. Her claim to fame is morning pages. So if you have ever read any of her books, you will know that morning pages are her thing. So you get up in the morning, you write 3 pages of long-handed writing, and you just do that totally uncensored. You just let everything out that's in your mind. And each book has that as the base. That is like the grounding point, is the morning pages. And then each book has something else different to it. This one here has a solo date, as in you take a special day for yourself once a week, totally unplugged, and go somewhere that you love alone so that you can think, like a coffee shop or an art shop or a gallery or a store or a nature thing, whatever it is for you. You do a solo date on something that you'd love to do, and you really connect and get regrounded, and inspiration as well. It can help kick off your kind of creative flow. The third thing she does in this book is a 2 to 3 times a week, we're doing a solo walk. No friends, no dogs, no earbuds, no music, no podcasts, just you, yourself, groundedness, walking in, hopefully in nature. And then the last thing is writing for guidance. So this book adds an extra writing tool called Writing for Guidance, which she asks you questions at the end of each little section. So each chapter has its own couple sections, and each of those sections has an area of guidance, like just words of wisdom to write down, journal about, reflect on, prompts. And so today I'm going into week 5 and 6, joining those together, which are stamina and commitment, as we finalized our way through this book. This book is a lot thinner and a lot shorter than the regular Artist's Way. My favorite book by her is It's Never Too Late to Begin Again, and her second place is Right for Life. And so, to be honest, this is not my favorite book. I've got a lot from it, and I still think it's a beautiful book, but it's definitely not my favorite. I find that there's a lot of repetitiveness in this one, but I want to, everything has power. Everything that you come through and ask yourself has so much power and wisdom inside, and you just never know what you're going to read or write or journal about that's going to be just the most important intuitive piece of your next part of your journey. So let's get going on week 4 and 5 as we wrap up this book together, Living the Artist's Way. Okay, so the first part, inviting stamina. This week will be encouraged to stay the course and to turn guidance even as you revisit issues or anxieties that have plagued you in the past. The tools of this week aim to remind you that guidance is always available to us and always a source of steady support. As we learned last week, counting our positives gives us a spiritual muscle. We face old challenges with new strength. So the first part, the most key point that I felt really hit home, was in the sidebar, and it was a quote. If I have the belief that I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. Mahatma Gandhi. I love that. If I have the belief that I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. So we're building that capacity. We're leaning into our intuition. We're taking bold leaps, which is what I've been talking about for weeks on end. So that was kind of like, ooh, that was really interesting. And so in this section, the writing for guidance, the extra additional part, she says, is I find bringing nature into my home in the form of fresh cut flowers, collected pine cones, blooming plants helps me connect with the divine. Can you bring in an element of nature into your home? Does it give you a sense of awe and connection to nature's magic? Because in the first section, she talks about the fires had come in and everything, and now it's starting to become spring, and they're warning about bears and they're warning about deer, and the animals are coming out again, and she's outside enjoying nature and really tapping in, because the story is a beautiful journey that goes through the different seasons of what was just the fire season and seems to be now moving on. It still sounds hot, but it just seems to be kind of moving through. And so the first part is bringing nature in, and how we don't realize how much we don't appreciate nature until we can't have it. Because when it's so smoky, I know for how I have felt in the past when it's so smoky here as well. And you don't realize that you can't even open your window or your whole house fills with the same thing. And you're kind of isolated and stuck inside. And then when you can go out and the wind changes and the air is fresh, you're just so grateful. You feel so cooped up. And so that was pretty profound. And the next part is allowing divine support. So in a nutshell, she talks about teaching a Zoom class of 183 people. The subject was talking to God, prayer. She says she was very nervous before she started. She even had her friends log on just in case. And she was kind of praying the whole time intuitively that things would come and what she said was the right thing, because she really wanted to be intentional with her words and kind of hit home with everybody. And she talked about how she needed this flow of words to kind of capture tonight's topic. And in order to do that, she really had to let go of a lot of control. So this one is a lot about control and how we attempt to kind of control our environments, control all these things, but really we have no control. And in dealing with people, she says there's always an uncomfortable fact of free will. The one we love may love another, and all of our wishes to the contrary don't change. And she talks all about how when no change comes, we get exhausted and stagnant and slow. But we all have these illusions of control. We think that we're controlling outcomes and people, and things need to always go our way. And sometimes we just need to surrender to what's going on, surrender to the environment, surrender and allow. And to me, she's saying to allow the intuition to bring the words to flow instead of like reading off of a script or a bullet points or something. And how you just have no control over what could happen. We just don't. And that's the way that it is. And so when she's talking about such a deep topic, I think it's allowing the right words to come through that are going to affect the people in there. And so acceptance is the key to being comfortable out of control. And I totally agree with that. We have to be able to accept whatever comes our way, because why fight it? It is what it is. And we're accepting the things that are coming our way, not because we're agreeing with them that we wanted them. We're just accepting them for what they are. And I know for many times in my life, I have had to accept things that I don't want or agree with, but I'm accepting it and making that step so I can continue to move forward. So I'm not stuck in that unaccepting place, because in that place is such stagnation, I find. So the writing for guidance on this part is to fill in the following. I wish I could control blank. Something I cannot change is. Something I need to accept is. Now ask your guidance what you need to know about the issue you cannot control. What wisdom do you receive, and does it bring you peace? So thinking of those kinds of things. And allowing ourselves to be guided moment to moment. That's the next part, guided moment to moment. There's a lot of talk about her doing Q&As, and if she didn't know the answer and in the middle of classes. And I can really relate to this, because sometimes I'll have some bullet points and some notes of things I want to cover. And other times I don't, I'm just totally going off on a tangent and letting my intuition take me to wherever it is. And when I go there and do that, it feels so authentic and maybe not exactly covering all the points I really wanted to make, but there's some sort of thing coming through and thoughts and reflections coming through that are meant to come through for the individuals there in that moment. And I really believe that. And so she continues to talk about her classes, and it all comes down to these questions. Taking your pen and journal, describe a situation that brings you anxiety or you find tricky to navigate. Is it possible for you to ask guidance in real time as you encounter the situation? I often pause, listen, and then I'm clear about what to do next. The next time you encounter a complex situation, see if you can try asking for a moment-to-moment guidance. Sometimes we want to see the whole picture, the whole plan, the whole thing in entirety. And what we just need to do is see what do I need to do in this next moment? What do I need to get me through this next moment for guidance? And so I really love that prompt. And how does that affect your experience, clarity, and actions? Do you feel partnered by a benevolent energy? And so because this chapter is called Inviting Stamina, I feel like these are the tools that we need to really keep going, to hone in, to help guide us through, to keep the stamina going so we can continue to go forward and move forward instead of getting stuck. And so I think that this is a lovely section. There's a sidebar part that says, we know God is everywhere, but we certainly feel his presence most when he works. His works are on the grandest scale, spread before us. And it's in the unclouded night sky where his worlds wheel their silent course that we read clearest his infinite, impotence, and omnipresence. And that is like focusing on, yes, when all these big, huge things go and come forward, it's easy to be thankful and be grateful for stuff. But really the beauty is in all the small, beautiful things that are in the everyday, the ordinary, the boring, those are the beautiful things that when we're grateful for, we get so much more of. And then, so the next chapter is all about gratitude. Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. Thich Nhat Hanh. What an amazing person. So she talks about in this next section about gratitude. It's just cultivating a habit of being grateful for everything that comes before you. Like I said, these little small things, constantly giving thanks, constantly being alert, constantly building up your self-awareness to be in tune with those things so that you even recognize how grateful and how much beauty is in the world. I think when we just embrace the small stuff and the little delights and the joys, they just make life so much more meaningful and so much more special. All of these small, beautiful things around us are contributing to our daily happiness to me. And it's very important to kind of see those as important and special and have gratitude for them. And so in this section, she talks about naming the things that we have gratitude for, even in the mundane, and opening ourselves up to see the good, to see good flows and how good things are flowing to us when we're not even really noticing, and how it's easy to see all the negative things, but it's harder to see all the good and the good in people and the good intentions. There's so many things to be grateful for. And so take a pen and paper and write number 1 to 20. And they're all I'm grateful for, except number 20 is I'm especially grateful for. And see if you can kind of go out of your comfort zone and maybe go a little more deeper than I'm grateful for this journal in front of me, but really think about what made you get the journal. And I'm grateful for the mindset of being able to do the work on myself so that I am more grateful in this world and more caring person, and that I am somebody that somebody wants to be around because I have this charisma about me, or whatever that is for you. Like, go a little level deeper is my suggestion. But noticing the small, mundane things as such, having such beauty as well. So see, that's short. That's why I'm going to combine them together. So week 6 is inviting commitment. And this is our final week where we talk about perseverance. And so she's really getting deep on, you'll deepen your practice of writing for guidance and hopefully commit to it as a long-term habit. So by now, writing for guidance and journaling should be almost second nature if you've been following along. But if not, don't beat yourself up for any of it, because we all going through different seasons of life. But if you have been, it would be definitely becoming second nature to you. And some people can't journal 3 pages of longhand every day. Sometimes one sentence is okay. And do it the way that you want to do it. That's what I say. So what's the next step? Ask your guidance. So then she breaks this down into prayer, a supportive network, holding the faith, and the power of walking, which we're going to talk about here. And I wanted to speak on, and the benevolence of guidance. Okay. And the reason that these are broken down into little bits, I believe, is so that we can tune into our guidance for each one, because each one has these little questions. So the first one was inviting, or hang on, come back here. The first one is prayer. And you need to fill the following in. I would like to petition God to, or you could say universe, whatever you believe. I'd like to petition God to. I am fighting with God over. I felt a sense of ease when. And now write what's on your heart. Write for guidance on these issues. She's talking a lot about focusing on staying positive and effort and prayer and just being able to put pen to paper sometimes and get support and guidance without trying to overthink and kind of stew around in your mind and twist up what you're thinking. And instead, just go right to pen and paper. And the next one I love, the ease of a supportive network, because community is huge. If you're not part of my school community, Create, Heal, Shine, definitely join that. It's free, and there's so much power in community. There's so much power in resources and sharing and uniting and coming together. There just is. And it's really important that we do that, because you can get support with inspiration and motivation this way instead of always trying to do things on your own. And so people in any form, in real life, online, whatever that is so important. And so she asks you to write for guidance and list 3 supportive people in your network. And then list 3 people that you could offer support to. And I love that, because there's easy to be like, well, I need help. Or not that you're asking for it, but thinking, I want this, I want that. But who are 3 people that we think we could offer support to? So number 1, who should I reach out to support to? For support. And number 2, who should I reach out to in order to offer my support? And reach out to these people and note down in your journal what happens. Note down what they say, what they're kind of, how do they feel? What are their insights? There's more to this than just doing good and having an impact on the world, because you're going to have an impact on the world when you give. If you set out in life to have an impact in the world, to me, you're missing the beat. Because when you are in your purpose and your calling, that is what's going to impact the world already. So helping other people and supporting them, free or paid, whatever it is. I'm sure she's asking you to do this out of the goodness of your heart right now. It's big. It's beautiful. Holding the faith. In a time of destruction, create something. That just makes my heart melt, because that is what I find so healing. So creativity to me is so healing. She goes on in this section to just really talk about having patience and walking her dog, and that there's still smoke outside a little bit and things are starting to change, and just to have faith and start focusing on optimism and know that everything comes to an end. And so you're writing for guidance during this, which was only like, each of these are only a couple pages, is I had faith when, fill in the blank. And then I could use more faith around, and fill that in. My guidance encourages me to have faith about blank. So the next section is called the power of walking. This is huge for me because I have always felt there's so much power in walking. Walking is a time where I feel tuned in, especially if I'm alone. I'm taking in all of the sights. I'm taking in the freshness. I'm also taking in the smell. And for me, the smell of nature and walking, even if you're in town or you're in a busy city walking, there are smells. There are all sorts of different smells that you're going to come across and that will trigger different thoughts, different memories. And so I love walking out in nature in the forest. I want to smell that earthy green nature smell. I want to smell berries. I want to smell fresh rain. I want to smell all of the vegetation and things going on. I love that. So for me, walking is very powerful. And I love that she includes that in this. And I've definitely been doing all of that walking. Maybe not the journaling perfect, but the walking 100%. And so notice when you're walking, sometimes it's hard. We feel like we actually need to fill the silence. We need to put music. We need to have music. We need to be listening. We need to be like, what are we doing here? What are we waiting for? What it's supposed to drop in? What sort of download is coming in? And sometimes when we're waiting on that, nothing comes. It's in the moments of just not expecting things that things happen. And so take the pen to the page and write out a question that has been lingering. Listen to what you hear in response. Now lace up your shoes, go out for a solo walk. Even 20 minutes is enough, she says. Bring your question with you on the walk. And when you return home, return once more to the journal page. What occurred to you as you walked? So I love that thought, is have your question before you go. Get your shoes or your sneakers on. Take that question with you and mull over that question during your walk and come home and write down what comes through. And if you're worried you're going to forget, sometimes I go on my notes on my phone, which I'm not on my phone. It's on silent, but in case I encounter a bear or something, I bring my phone for emergency. So you can always stop, pause, record something on your notes, put it back, and continue walking and asking questions. Super powerful. Done that a lot of times, especially when I used to have breaks and I worked at the airport. We would walk a good mile or so on our lunch break years and years ago. And I would put a lot of notes because so many things would come to me in those walks, solo walks. And I'd put a lot of notes in my phone. Who is that? Somebody just licked my foot. Okay. One of 4 dogs. Anyway, so the benevolence of guidance. Prayer is not asking. Prayer is putting oneself in the hands of God, at his disposition, and listening to his voice in the depths of our heart. Mother Teresa. So this is, I believe this is the final little bit, final chapter. And here she talks about noticing small things. I love her writing, like the night has fallen. A full moon rises over the mountain, luminous and pale. I love her way she describes things because you can really visualize it. My phone shrills and the caller one more time is Scott Thomas, ever peaceful and calm, just checking in on me on how my day has gone. I find myself optimistic and well-balanced. All systems are a go as I head into my evening writing. But what to write about? A single word of guidance comes to me: candor. Our world needs candor, and candor can be cultivated. To be candid is to be authentic, to speak our truth without censorship. For many of us, this is an elusive act. We filter our words through a screen of what we consider acceptable. Candor eschews such censorship. Yes, even the ugly duckling thoughts that we are tempted to hide. So how can we resist the temptation to tailor our thoughts? To begin with, we must practice self-acceptance, saying to ourselves, all parts of me are welcome. And if you've ever done parts work, you would understand that even at another level. This is what I want more of. This is what I want less of, she writes. I didn't know I felt that way. Nothing is off limits, writing. All thoughts are equally valid, joyous or disgruntled, happy or sad. There is no wrong way to write pages. They may be lively or loving, interesting or dull, but they all give us a glimpse of our undefended mind. So where we are candid and the candor carries over from our writing into our speech, this becomes our currency, authenticity, the coin of realm. We experience a new freedom, a new self-respect. And as we speak our truth, we validate ourselves and our perceptions. Others sense our solid core. We are trustworthy. Our candor yields us so. As we become human to ourselves, we dare to be known to others. Oh, I just did a video on this. It's so interesting because I forgot that this part was in there. It's funny how these are the moments that stick in your mind. And so she basically talks about asking for guidance on anything. Nothing is too small. Nothing is too large. Seek your own advice. Go deep and write for guidance. So she asked that now you go back and look through all of the things that you have wrote during this journey of this book. Look at all the different things that you've wrote. Does it have a tone of benevolence? Have you come to see, as I have, the value of asking for guidance in any and all aspects of our life? It is my hope that you have shared in this comforting and helpful practice that I use every day. Moving forward, can you commit to daily morning pages and daily writing for guidance? And that's the end. So there we are, in a nutshell, living the artist's way, Julia Cameron. I would love for you. I would love to hear your feedback. I would love to hear what you thought about the book. If you've read any or other of her other books, how you compare them, which ones are your favorite, which ones are your least favorite, what you got the most from the book, what biggest reflections and insights or aha moments did you get? Maybe doing the tasks, which one was most meaningful, the walks, the journaling, the writing for guidance, the solo dates, the solo walks. What was it for you? Bring your discussion, bring your comments, bring anything. I'd love to hear it. And I'll see you next time in our next book club, which I'll be announcing soon. And I'll catch you later, friends. Bye, everybody.